everybody. So yesterday we took a look at the 5 best and worst offensive teams in the NHL based on goals for per game this season. And today we're going to take a look at the other side of things, the defensive side of things, and look at the top 5 and the worst 5 defensive teams in the league this year using goals against per game. So before we get into it, I just ask that you subscribe and hit that thumbs up if you haven't. Helps the channel an absolute ton and is greatly appreciated. But let's get into it here, looking at the top 5 teams as far as goals against per game are concerned this season. So these are your 5 best defensive teams in the NHL right now, starting at number 5 with the Boston Bruins, who are actually tied for number 4, but Boston at 5 at 2.39 goals against per game. The Bruins have kept the puck out of their net very, very well this season. That has not been the issue for Boston and why they have struggled this year. It's been the other end of the ice where they have just been unable to score. But defensively, it's actually been a really good season for the Bruins, and they are one of the best teams in the league when it comes to goals against. And, they're not giving up a whole lot. The problem with them is they're not scoring a whole lot either. Coming in at number 4 and tied with the same number as Boston is at 2.39 goals against per game, the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, the Lightning, if you remember from yesterday's video, were on the list for best offensive teams in the league. They came in number 2 in that video. They're number 4 here. They are also one of the best defensive teams in the league. They do not give up a lot of goals, and Tampa Bay is great in all facets of the game, and this is just another one of them. They have probably the best goaltender in the league in Andrei Vasilevskiy. They have a very strong defense, and they are giving up just 2.39 goals against a game this year, which is phenomenal. Number 4 in the league right now. At number 3, we have the New York Islanders giving up 2.35 goals against a game this year. No real surprise here. It's a Barry Trotz coach team. They're very defensive-minded. He's always been a coach that has valued a defensive system and playing very strong in their own zone. They also are happen to get fantastic goaltending this year from Semyon Varlamov, and Ilya Sorokin hasn't been too bad in his first year in the NHL either. He's had some really nice stretches of play as well. So they're getting great goaltending. They play a lockdown defensive system. And it's a Barry Trotz coached New York Islanders team, so no surprise that they are in the top 3 in goals against per game this year. Coming in at number 2 is the Vegas Golden Knights at 2.29 goals against per game. Vegas has been absolutely one of the best defensive teams this year. They're getting great goaltending from Marc-Andre Fleury. Robin Lehner is back from injury as well, and he's back playing in goal. Vegas does not give up a lot. They have been playing a lot of very low-scoring games this year, and they don't let a lot of pucks end up in the back of their net. As you can see, less than 2.3 goals per game. That is an absolutely phenomenal number, and without a doubt, one of the best defensive teams in the entire NHL. And that brings us to number 1, which is the Colorado Avalanche at giving up just 2.26 goals a game this year. Now, if you remember back to yesterday's video, Colorado was also the best offensive team in the league, scoring the most goals for per game this year. They're also the best defensive team, giving up the least amount of goals per game this year at 2.26, which is an absolutely incredible number. And, Colorado's been phenomenal this season. And now, especially over the last month or so, where they've really gotten things going here and started to look like the team we are expecting to see, their numbers are just going more and more off the charts at both ends of the ice. And the Avalanche deserve a ton of credit for their play. And they are looking really, really good down the stretch here and getting ready for a deep playoff run. So those are your best defensive teams in the NHL this year. The Boston Bruins at number 5, the Lightning at number 4. The Islanders at number 3, the Vegas Golden Knights at number 2, and the Avalanche coming in at number 1. So now we have to switch things over to the worst goals against per game this season. These are the teams that are having a lot of trouble keeping the puck out of the back of their net. As you can see here, coming in at number 5, worst goals against per game are the Anaheim Ducks. Now, Anaheim was on the list yesterday for being one of the worst offensive teams in the NHL. They are also one of the worst defensive teams in the NHL, giving up 3.27 goals against per game. Well over 3. That's a lot of goals. Not great defensively this year for the Ducks. And again, the Ducks are a rebuilding team, very much in a rebuild stage, so this isn't completely surprising. They're very, very young. They're working a lot of new players into the lineup, and it's going to be a few years. There's young talent there, but they're not ready yet. It's going to be a few years for Anaheim. Coming in at number 4, the San Jose Sharks at 3.37 goals against per game. San Jose's defense and goaltending have not been very good this year. They weren't very good last year either. That has continued into this season. And one of the main reasons that San Jose is not a playoff team is because they give up a lot of goals, giving up over 3 1/3 goals per game. That is pretty bad. Obviously, bottom 5 in the league. And until that gets figured out, I don't think we're going to be seeing the Sharks in the playoffs. And it's funny because they spend so much money on defensemen between Brent Burns, Erik Karlsson, and Marc-Edouard Vlasic. They still don't have a good defense because 2 of those 3 guys are basically forwards and probably should be playing wing instead of defense in Brent Burns and Erik Karlsson. And don't do the Sharks any favors in keeping the pucks out of their own goal. Coming in at number 3, the Buffalo Sabres. Of course, they're on the list. It's Buffalo this year, giving up 3.44 goals against per game. They are one of the worst defensive teams in the league, one of the 3 worst defensive teams in the league. They also were one of the worst offensive teams in the league, if you remember from the video yesterday. So yeah, Buffalo is just not very good at anything other than their power play. Their power play numbers are actually pretty decent. But literally, like everywhere else, Buffalo's kind of a train wreck right now. But I'm not going to hammer on the Sabres too much. We all know where they're at. They're the worst team in the league this year, and it's really not surprising that they're on the list. Coming in at number 2, the second worst defensive team in the NHL this season is the Philadelphia Flyers, giving up 3.63 goals against per game, which is absolutely brutal by NHL standards. They are giving up a ton of goals. Their goaltending has not been great this year, but I don't even really blame the goaltenders a whole lot because their defense is absolutely atrocious and has been for most of this season. It's why Philadelphia is not in a playoff spot right now, is because of their defense. And the fact that they are giving up this many goals, it doesn't matter how much they score. They're not going to be able to outscore their own inability to keep the puck out of their net. And that's what's happened this year, and that's why the Flyers are losing so many games. So really, really bad year defensively for Philly. And if you had told me that at the beginning of the year, I would be surprised because I was not expecting the Flyers to be bad this season. But now that we've seen them this year and we've seen how they looked over the past 4 to 6 weeks here now, it's not surprising that they're on this list based on how they've been playing recently. Their defense is just absolutely brutal. And coming in at number 1, the worst defensive team in the NHL this year is the Ottawa Senators, giving up 3.73 goals against a game. Obviously, this isn't completely unexpected. We knew that Ottawa was a very, very young team, didn't have much on the back end heading into this year. They gave Matt Murray a big contract, way too big of a contract in my opinion. Matt Murray is not what he used to be anymore, and they haven't gotten a ton of help from the other goaltenders either. They've played another, 2 or 3 different guys as well in net, and nobody can really keep the puck out of the net in Ottawa. They play very high-scoring games. Now, the good news for the Senators is they can score, and they've got a lot of offensive talent there, very young offensive talent, but they're not going to be a true contending team until they figure out the defensive side of the game, and they still have a lot of rebuilding to do and need a lot of help on the defensive side of things. But Ottawa comes in at number 1, and those are your 5 worst defensive teams in the NHL this season. At number 5, the Anaheim Ducks. At number 4, the San Jose Sharks. At number 3, the Buffalo Sabres. At 2, the Philadelphia Flyers. And at 1, the Ottawa Senators. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, your top 5 and bottom 5 defensive teams in the NHL this year. Not a whole lot of surprises on there, to say the least, and that's where we're at so far in the 2021 NHL season. So with that, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon, merchandise store, donation link, and channel memberships are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.